Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Q&A panel event with Nationwide. My name is Isabel, and I'll be hosting today, and I'm joined by three of my colleagues, Jackie, Steph, and Kieran, who are all on the Technology Development Program, which we'll talk about in a bit more detail in a moment. So today we're going to be discussing kind of a variety of things, what Jackie, Steph, and Kieran kind of do on a day-to-day basis in their roles, what interesting projects are being worked on, what tech is being used, and what kind of impact this has on our members and on society, and on kind of what impact Nationwide has. So we're also going to touch a bit on working at Nationwide, a bit about our culture and kind of learning and development opportunities as well. So to start with some introductions, obviously, as I mentioned, my name's Isabel and I'm a Technology Development Program Specialist at Nationwide. So I support the kind of day-to-day running of the program. And I'm also joined by Steph, Jackie and Kieran, who are all on the Technology Development Program. So if I just hand over to you all quickly for some intros. Jackie, you're up on my screen first if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, that's fine. As Isabel said, I am Jackie. I am part of TDP, which is an accelerator program for career changes as well. I never worked with technology before. I was always worked in finance and wanted a career changer. The accelerator program sounded like a good opportunity for myself. So currently, I work in the identity and security space, which essentially means that my job is to ensure that our colleagues have the right access to the tools they need to do their work, but at the same time, we also have to provide the right level of access and for the right amount of time, so we protect our members' data. So my day-to-day role is very varied. I do all sorts of things, really, from analysis, like coding, and project management. I think that is about it for me.
Thank you. And Steph, you're up next.
Hi, yeah, I'm Steph. I've been in the same amount of time as Jackie now for over a year on the TDP. I also don't have a background in tech. My background is in acting and animation, of all the things to have a background in. But still, I've had a natural affinity for computers and stuff. So I'm now part of the infrastructure management team, specifically in version management. So that means all of the infrastructure code changes go through me and the team that I work with on a daily basis. But we also control a larger part of the infrastructure EMT, which means that I'm also taking part in some larger projects just outside of my daily job as well. So what I do is expanded, not just beyond the daily. And it's great.
Perfect, thank you. And last but not least, over to you, Kieran.
So yeah, hi, I'm Kieran, also a TDP accelerator, but probably the baby of the group, started in June this year. And at the moment, I'm working in a team called Open Developer Platform. They provide a website and the documentation for some of the APIs that we make available to third parties. So at the moment, I'm working kind of as a full stack web developer-ish. We also do a lot of other stuff, sort of DevOpsy stuff, testing. We're running stuff in the cloud as well. So do a bit of everything.
Perfect, thank you all. So really interesting to hear a little bit of an introduction into your roles, and we'll do a bit of a deep dive into what you do daily and what kind of projects you work on and things. But firstly, I just wanted to give a bit of context on the Technology Development Program that you've obviously all just spoken about, or TDP, as you may hear us also shortening it to today. So the Technology Development Program is an early careers development program for those who want to pursue a career in technology. So as been mentioned, it's open to graduates and career changers, which is a program called our Accelerator Program. And then we also have an industrial placement scheme for those who have the option to do a year in industry during their degree. So the program, as I said, for graduates and career changers is called the Accelerator Program, and it's an 18-month-long program that starts with 6 weeks training. So that will kind of helps everyone in the cohort get to kind of the same level technically. And then the cohort will then be placed into different business areas, variety of business areas, as you kind of just heard from everyone on the call today. At the end of those 18 months, You'll then complete what we call our endpoint assessment, which is when you'll, if you kind of successfully complete it, you then essentially graduate off the program into an E1 engineering role. So the reason why it's called the Accelerator Program is because it kind of fast tracks your career in technology. So, in normal circumstances, it may take you several years to become an E1 engineer, but with this program, it takes, give or take, a couple of months either side, 18 months usually, for someone to kind of, roll off the program into their E1 engineering role. So on the program, there's a lot of focus on learning and development as well. So there's lots of resources that people on the program have available and kind of dedicated to their development. They have mentors and buddies and lots of support during the time on the program as well. So that's a bit of an overview of the technology development program. So now we're kind of going to go into a bit more about what Jackie, Steph, and Kieran do day to day, kind of a bit more of detail on what kind of happens in their roles. So if we could start with you, Steph, could you tell us a bit about kind of in a bit more detail day to day? You mentioned kind of doing different projects as well there. What we do, so we can kind of get a bit of a first-hand perspective on what day-to-day life on the program is like.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to describe what I generally do, it is known as change management. Anybody who's built any programs before or built any development tools before may have had to submit them to a change management team. And what we have to do is we take all the versioning of the software and stuff, and we put it in our own bespoke tool that we call Chimera, which is designed to track all versions, how they link to the teams that design them, the actual versions of the software, the servers that they're hosted on, how those servers interact and are clustered. There's a lot that goes into it, which is why it is an enormous, a surprisingly large team, and we have to use the bespoke software to get it managed. But day to day, it is just getting those in, approving them, and make sure those changes are properly dealt with in our software, so that if something goes wrong down the line, we can say that is exactly where it went wrong. That's exactly the update that did it, and here's how to fix it. So we're pretty critical to that. So the day to day is making sure that we're handling those processes correctly. But in terms of bigger projects as well, there's a site that is sort of an information sharing tool for Nationwide. We use it as that, called Confluence. So I've been asked to take a sort of, I suppose, a management role in organizing a team to update the website and get all of our documentation done. So that's been a responsibility that I don't think I haven't been working in my team for a year already, and they've just said, you seem responsible, off you go. So you will be trusted with things if at Nationwide, if you sort of take part and speak up. It's not just about doing the job right. You're going to do the job wrong sometimes, but being eager to attempt something, and you'll be given that chance, which is fantastic. I've even been included in coding and development updates for the bespoke tool that we do use, and I'm being asked to learn SQL and further languages so that I can help develop the tool. So it's great. You'll be brought right in, and sort of you'll be involved from pretty much as soon as you're ready, which is great.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about being given responsibility in the team. It's, you're not kind of just given side roles. You are given real responsibility to kind of get stuck in with things, actually have an impact, and you're kind of considered as a core member of the team, really. So that's really interesting to hear. And you mentioned a software that you use. What kind of tech do you use? Any kind of interesting pieces of tech that you could maybe share a bit more about as well?
For me, in terms of what we use it for, because it's such a broad range of uses and a broad range of applications, we at Nationwide are getting on for hosting 500 applications. So keeping them all done in a centralized fashion is really important. So we try not to diversify how we do version management. We've got our Chimera tool, which is very specialized, which can be specialized in any way we want. Which is fantastic, because we actually have access to the team that develops the software and the coding backend to work with from our side. So what's nice about that is not that we work with a lot of tools, is that we work with one really, really malleable tool.
Awesome, thank you.
I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's really interesting. Thank you. So moving on to you, Jackie, could you give kind of, a bit more detail about what you do day to day in your role, any interesting projects you kind of think are worth mentioning as well?
Yes, definitely. I would say that my role is a step prior to change management. So it's called requirements engineering. So my role is to elicit or to gather all the requirements and the business needs that we have, translate that into the technical requirements so the developers can create solutions. So I would follow all of that steps, as well as ensuring that those requirements and the solutions are feasible and they're fit for purpose, and that I understand the impact and the risk that we will have not only on our members, but as well on the business as usual teams, which is a massive responsibility. But I just wanted to add a little bit on what Steph said about, having the mindset of giving a go. With my team as well, I have been asked to do different tasks that wouldn't necessarily be allocated to a trainee. So I have been able to take some responsibilities of like creating documents, presenting to the design authority, which is essentially saying, here's my recommendation based on my analysis, can we build that? Which is fantastic. But also one thing that I would like to say is outside the main project, Nationwide is really good at creating different networks and opportunities for people to try. So I am one of the diversity champions as well for Nationwide. I work for the Women in Tech as well, which is fantastic. And it allowed me to run different webcasts such as this, create different projects as well, and raise awareness as well on diversity and all the issues that women usually face within the tech environment as well.
Thanks, Jackie. Yeah, really good point there about the kind of inclusion and diversity aspect at Nationwide. We can go into that a bit more in a bit more detail in a bit. But in terms of your role, is there any kind of standout, interesting, exciting project that you think that you really enjoyed being a part of, or any kind of interesting tech that you used?
Yes, definitely. I always wanted to work in security, so we use off-the-shelf solutions called SailPoint IAQ. So is how we control all the access for all different applications. It is a massive tool. Nationwide has customized. So for me, just trying to learn that and do some basic coding to extract information that I need, promote change in that, how we can improve that is really exciting. Which is something that I never thought I would be able to do 1 year ago. So I would say that is really good. But also, I used to have some basic knowledge on SQL and have been able to looking through Nationwide's mass standard and have a go, which is just great.
Brilliant, thank you. And one last question: what is your kind of team structure like? Because I know Steph mentioned there's quite a big team. What's your team structure like, and how do you all kind of work together?
Well, my team is like a consultancy company within Nationwide. So we have a home team per se with about 25 of us, and we are deployed in different projects. So we are specialists in gathering all the requirements and doing those elicitation or those phases before change management, as Steph has mentioned. So all of us work in different projects. So yes, I do have this core team that will support me, which are fantastic, but I also have to build a network on different projects that will be deployed. So that can be something about 6 months, could take 2 to 5 years to be in a project and change, but it's really good because it gives you exposure to different areas. So at the moment I am in security, maybe next year I'll be deployed into the cloud, doing the same thing, but also being exposed to different technologies.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's a really interesting point about, working with different teams, then you can network with people from, all over the society and in all different kind of areas as well. Thank you. And Kieran, moving on to you, you've got a bit more of a kind of programming focused role. So could you tell us a bit about what you do day to day in your role?
Yeah, so kind of alluded to, at the moment, basically working as a web developer. So working alongside a contracted resource that we've brought in to basically revamp our site. And at the moment, we provide a site which is developer.nationwide.co.uk, which is all about documentation for how third parties use our APIs. And at the moment, we're expanding that from just open banking to other APIs within the company. So at the moment it's loans, and then there's going to be in future other areas. So at the moment, that's what I'm working on, is expanding the site in that. Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Perfect. And how do you, because obviously you're kind of at kind of the beginning of your time on the program, how do you see it kind of transforming as you kind of continue to progress in your role?
So yeah, it's been an interesting journey for me. So when I first got into, we did the bootcamp, obviously. When I first came into Nationwide, found myself in a platform role, which I did for a little while. Tried it out. Probably wasn't for me. So it's kind of one of the things that really enjoyed about Nationwide is the opportunities it gives you. So I didn't have to stick there. The TDP, all the TDP specialists made it really easy to find something that I did like a bit more. So then I moved into this team, and it's been a really good opportunity to build on some of the skills that I already had from just sort of passion projects before. And yeah, I'm getting there with it. Actually, the guy I'm learning from is really good. Everyone in Nationwide has definitely a culture of teaching and helping others develop, and it's going well so far. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. And I'm going to ask you about the academy, because I think you did it most recently. Jackie and Steph, I know it was kind of a year ago or so for you, but in terms of the academy, Kieran, how did you find that? Obviously, you're learning lots of new things. You're learning with your cohort. You've got different trainers. What was your experience during that 6-week academy at the beginning of your program?
Yeah, it was really good. It is intense, and it's kind of a scattergun approach to a lot of things. So I did learn a lot, but when I got into Nationwide, I think I was a little bit scared that I was going to be expected to start writing code from day one on some of the stuff that I'd learned, and actually that's not the case. It's an idea is just to give you an introduction to it, and then it helps you when you do get into a role, start looking at stuff, and it gives you kind of the first building blocks that you need to then get going with stuff. And actually looking at a lot of different technologies in the academy has been really well replicated inside Nationwide, because as I work on a huge variety of stuff from week to week, and that learning that skill of being able to pick new things up and transferring skills from different languages and stuff like that has been really useful.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think with the academy, obviously, you're not going to use every single thing that you learn during it, but it kind of gives you the kind of basis in a lot of different areas that I think is really useful on your journey on the TDP. Steph, you were nodding your head when Kieran said it was an intense academy. I don't know if you have anything to add on your experience during it. I know it was about a year ago.
As someone who has never ever had an easy time with education, I learn very differently from pretty much all standardized teaching methods. So I was really very pleasantly surprised when the course was intense. And the thing is that having worked for a lot of other companies, I'm often expecting to be kind of expected to sort myself out. Kind of, if things go wrong, then you'll work it out. You'll just muddle through, and if you can't work it out, then obviously you're not suited for the role. Whereas here, I struggled with the very last one of the very last bits we did in learning. Like they all vary, so I'm not being too specific, but there was a bit that I struggled with, and actually the head of the TDP came to me and said, and basically said, look, I Alex has told me that you said that you were very stressed out about the situation. It's nothing like that. We're just looking for the idea that you can improve. So kind of that pressure of the idea of pass fail, of the idea of not being able to make mistakes openly and quickly, and again owning those mistakes as well, and admitting that you need support is something that you can do at Nationwide. So it is intense, it is difficult, but the point is that you're not doing it alone. and it really helped to not think about it as doing it alone. So yeah, it was intense, but yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and you also,
ultimately healthy.
yeah, because you did it virtually. Well, you all did it all virtually as well. But I think it's quite nice because you even though you're not meeting your cohort in person, you still do kind of build up those relationships with them. You know, you're going through it together, you're learning together, you're supporting each other. You can ask for help for each other. So yeah, it's nice to see that, you know, you have a lot of support from different areas, which is, yeah, very good point.
Yeah, absolutely. I had people that I would sort of, I knew from day one of the course, I could immediately send them a little Teams message and go, I'm having some issues. And they would, you know, bless their hearts, they would drop everything to help. So yeah, you will always be with people who are willing to lend a hand.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to come to you, Jackie, on a point about the learning and development side on the program. Because I know you mentioned previously also there's lots of resources available to, you know, people on the TDP. I don't know if you could just touch on maybe how you've utilized those resources and how you kind of focused on your own development throughout your time on the program.
Well, I would say I give it everything a go. So I tried pretty much everything that was offered. So the TDP specialists, they do offer any opportunities such as doing this webcast, you know, to anyone that is open, just to try to improve the communication skills. So I have done a few of those, but I also just try to identify the gaps in my own development. So in the academy, we didn't really touch all the servers and infrastructure bits. So when I found out that I needed to know a little bit more about that, I decided I would just try to see who can help me. I knew Nationwide is quite good in, you know, supporting this. So I just found someone, reached out, this person said, please, can you give me an overview? Do you know where, you know, I can go with that? And he was very kind and arranged for me to go into the server room and gave me a 3-hour talk about this, which was fantastic. But also joining the different networks. Some I am more active in the sense that I help organize the tasks and the projects. Others I'm just there to listen. Really helped me just broaden my network and identify which pieces of advice or resources that they had that I could utilize to myself. So through the Women in Tech, I was able to join some of the Microsoft coding classes for women, which were fantastic. I have been able to organize a SQL training, which actually is being deployed to a lot of our colleagues as well in TDP. But yeah, there are resources depending on your actually style. And I'm sorry if you hear my son screaming in the background.
No problem.
But yeah, so just a second. If you like to learn from, you know, online resources, yes, there's Pluralsight, there's a QA Academy and virtual labs. Sorry, but otherwise, I really apologize about that. But otherwise, you can find shadowing opportunities, and I also take part in the mentoring program. So I have been allocated one coding mentor, which does help me massively, and also someone to help me with my business skills as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, that's a huge amount that you've kind of been involved with learning kind of outside of your day-to-day role as well. You mentioned the Women in Tech classes too. But yeah, I think that's a good point also around Pluralsight. You know, there's access to thousands of courses on there that you can, you know, take up in something, even if it's not necessarily directly related to your role. If you want to continue developing in an area that you continue to be interested in, that kind of option is there for you as well. Steph or Kieran, I don't know if you've, you know, what kind of extra L&D things you kind of looked at, Pluralsight courses you've done.
Yeah, it's been mostly Pluralsight for me. It's a very, very useful website with constructed courses. They'll do you a quiz at the start to kind of see what skill level you're already at. So you're not kind of always going from the absolute start. If you already know what's going on, they can kind of gauge your skill level from there. I've also been on my own time. I just thought I'd have a search for it. I do 3D modeling, so they do courses on advanced Blender as well. So it's exactly as Isabel said. If you want to look for knowledge on there, just have a look. It's probably there, and you can access that. and sort of process it on your own time. They're little bite-sized pieces. I find Pluralsight really good. So yeah, that is what I mostly go to.
Yes.
Although Jackie mentioned a mentor, and I need to get myself one of those. So good reminder too.
Yeah, Jackie, is that someone kind of a mentor in a more senior role who kind of, you speak to on a regular basis?
Yes. So we have 2 different streams that you can find. So you can ask your line manager for someone in a specific area that you would like to be developing. In my case, it was coding, because I need to have that solid foundation. Although I'm not coding every day, I need to understand this so what from the next variable. So I have been working into developing those skills with E3 engineer. So he's a very senior engineer, which is great. But I also have the reciprocal mentoring with a senior stakeholder and business manager as well. Completely different area, but at the same time that he helps me work on my communication, development plan, networking skills. He also learns how Nationwide works for a diverse person like me, because I am a woman, I'm a mother, I'm not British as well. So he tries to understand and make sure the Nationwide is a bit more inclusive and diversity as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. And Kieran, I don't know if there's any kind of learning and development areas that you kind of want to mention as well.
Just that, yeah, Steph and Jacqueline were perfect with Pluralsight. Everyone in engineering has access to it. It's a fantastic resource to just go away and learn stuff. And to boot with that, they'll give you managers are told that employees need a certain amount of time every week to spend just on self-development, learning stuff, learning something new that you want to learn. So for me, that was React, which hopefully it's going to be something that does get incorporated into my role, and I've already kind of got a head start on that one. And the other thing as well is if you need some sort of extra training. So for me, Drupal is what we use, which is quite a niche thing. So there's some resources that aren't on Pluralsight, but that are really good and are paid. The TDP is happy to fund those for people to help them get going, and it's been a massive advantage to me being able to have access to those resources.
Yeah, that is a big thing. The idea that you can actually request a paid class for certain things, just in case you're like, right, I need this knowledge. This is a good place to get it, and you can have a chat with your boss about requesting funding allocation for paying for you to go on that course, which is great, because it really widens the boundaries of what you can learn and how you can learn it.
Yeah, I think it's important to say that Nationwide does have a learning provider. So
Yes.
when I was just looking for extra training that would fit with my role, and I look at the catalog, there were over 700 courses. So you're spoiled for choice. It really depends on how you learn and how you would like to develop your career, really. We do have something called My Time as well. So you can use those I think it's half a day a month, the way you want. You can take that to study, you can take that to maybe shadow someone from a different department, which I have done a few times, or maybe just decide, oh, this month I don't need, maybe I want to just get one full day and just go on a training course, which is great.
Yeah, that's a really good point about My Time. It's really good that you know that you have that focus time every month where you can just solely focus on your learning and development. You can tell your colleagues or your team, put it in your diary, this is the time out that I'm taking. So you really know that you can commit to that on a monthly basis and make sure that you're always focusing on your content development, which is a big thing at Nationwide, and also especially on the technology development program. It's always about continually, developing and learning. And I think you make a good point, Jackie, about the soft skills side of things as well. Like obviously, there's a lot of focus on technical skills on Pluralsight, but also on your own soft skills, whether that's communication or presentation skills, whatever that may be. There's definitely a culture of asking for feedback, getting feedback back from people, and then kind of continually improving. So yeah, really good points from everyone there on kind of the learning and development side of things.
Yeah, it's just a point. Sorry.
No, you go. Sorry.
That's fine. I was just going to say that when I joined TDP, I just thought, oh my God, I will be expected just to code and know everything technology.
Yeah.
But it's not about that. I would say, the tech side is about 40% of your skill set. What you need is your soft skills. So you need to have the growth mindset. So I will learn and I will fail. It's okay to fail. It's liaise with different stakeholders, understanding how people communicate, what, you can improve in the team, and even a go and questioning senior people as well, not to have a go at them, of course, but just to try to say, actually, why do we do this way?
Yeah.
I think we are just maybe thinking the other way around, and it will be heard. So I think the soft skills is the most important thing with any role.
That's a really good point you bring up, Jackie, regarding sort of asking questions of upper management that you might not have necessarily been able to ask in any other job or role. I have been asked personally. I already ask enough annoying and awkward questions, but my boss has basically been saying, well, my manager has basically been saying, they're great. Keep asking more. We're going to bring you into some management meetings because we want those questions. We want to know what we're doing wrong. We've been doing the same thing for 5, 10, however long, many years. And we desperately need someone to come in and say, hold on a minute, why is that process like that? Even if it is just something small, a lot of teams can get very entrenched in how they're used to working. And there's a big encouragement to shake up. To shake up how people are working.
Yeah, excellent point. I think especially when a big company like Nationwide, may have been doing things in a similar way for many years, and you're all like the tech talent of the future coming in and saying why we're doing it this way. They need people to ask those questions, because otherwise you're just stuck and you do the same thing just because it's what you're always used to doing. So yeah, really interesting to hear that as well.
Yeah, and that same encouragement of kind of making noise and taking up space in Nationwide as well. Yeah, Jackie, absolutely nodding along. That has been the biggest thing for a lot of well, a lot of women in Nationwide, but a lot of minorities in work in general, is this idea of making noise and taking up space. And I was encouraged from day one to take up space and make some noise. So I was very clear that I was non-binary on my form, and I was very, very, very pleased at sort of coming straight into Nationwide that I was accommodated for just without question. Absolutely, everybody wanted me to get involved. And then sort of I was very open about it within my team, and I've been asked to write some blog posts for NT Communications. I've actually been recently asked to join the LGBTQ Pride Network. And this was just things that came along from other employees actually seeing me being loud and encouraging me to take part in that extra stuff, and me being very much able to say yes. Being encouraged to take up space. I'm used to not being part of those groups because I think I might not be of value, or I might, well, be too loud. But it's very much the opposite, is that they want people like me to come in and just, like I do now, just reel off until somebody gets tired of me talking. So I'm very pleased to be somewhere that lets me keep talking.
Yeah, it's so great to hear that, because I think, Nationwide, obviously we promote ourselves, we have an inclusive culture, but it genuinely, that is the truth. When you come to Nationwide, it's so inclusive and diverse. And Jackie and Steph, you both mentioned there the networks. So there's there's the Proud Network, Race Together that you mentioned, Jackie. There's Enable Network, which is for people with disabilities, working parents or working families, and working carers as well. So any kind of people with all sorts of different backgrounds can find people that they can have something in common with, that they can talk to about, that they can be an ally of a particular network as well. So yeah, it's definitely, Nationwide is definitely an inclusive place where all colleagues are supported. I don't know.
And we have a union, which is cool.
Yes.
So, seems crazy to say that it's cool, but it's great that we have a union.
Yeah, it's actually really good, and there are a lot of perks with the union as well.
So many.
Holidays.
I used their free legal solicitation line to call about my flat just a week ago. So yeah, worth every penny.
Yeah, definitely worth it. I don't know if you both want to talk a little bit more about the networks and what you do with them, or what kind of events they run, things like that.
Jackie,
Yeah.
I'm not very involved. Mine is basically I'm starting to get involved, so there's not much from me there.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm part of the Pride Network, which is the set of nationwide recognition values, so empowering each other, for example. So yes, I do have some day-to-day tasks on that as well as monthly. So we selected the employees of the month. We make sure that we actually have the correct budget, and we are promoting all sorts of activities to promote inclusion, make sure people connect to each other, especially in this virtual environment. So I think the last one that we have done was last month was the Halloween competition. So yeah, we do all of the sorts, which is a bit of like the fun side of Nationwide, which is great. With the Women in Tech, we run different speakers each month, so women to empower women. We also have it's not just for women, we do have non-binary, we have men there as well. They're interested, which is great. Everyone is welcome. It's just to try to have a discussion and to see how naturally we have in industry, which is not to say that Nationwide is perfect, which is not, but is great that Nationwide is actually open just to see the gaps and how we can improve that. And then with the diversity, as I said, I'm more of a listener on that, but we do have a drop-in session, which is a safe space for people just to talk about any challenges they have faced, which is fantastic. I never had any issues with racism Nationwide. I had in my previous jobs, which is unfortunate, but it's great that Nationwide feels like a protective, employer. As well as that, we do have different speakers. We promote different campaigns to provide awareness, how we can actually communicate no violently as well. So we are more inclusive and we are not, offending anyone. So there are many different projects and tasks that you can involve. It could be just, I will just listen today onto this speaker or that conference, or maybe actually it'll be hands-on and promote those values outside. So I have been asked as well to speak to, and they were thinking about maybe IT. So there are different diverse, is really varied, and it's a massive catalogue of things that you could potentially do, but it's just great. I think you are not asked or forced to do anything. It's just open to anyone that would like to do it.
Yeah, definitely. And talking about women in tech, actually, the engineering manager who created the whole women in tech group just came in and saw that there wasn't anything in place and set that whole team up. And then there's now events, there's hundreds of members, maybe even thousands. There's loads of people who are kind of involved in it now, and that was just one thing that someone had an idea of and then just ran with it. So that kind of thing is really encouraged as well. If there's whether it's like a charity event or some kind of a coding competition, whatever it is, that's something that you can just have the ability to just set up on your own as well. So just to kind of coming towards the end of the webinar now, also just to mention, feel free to put any comments or questions in the chat if you have them. But one thing I wanted to just finish on is, because I know we've probably got some eager graduates or university students on this call, is there any one piece of advice that you would give to anyone starting out their career, whether that's finishing uni or they're looking to apply for a role? Kieran, if I come to you first, are you able to kind of, what's your one piece of wisdom that you would give?
Say yes. If someone gives you an opportunity or there's something that you're thinking of applying for, just do it. I was trained to be a pilot before I joined this. Didn't have a background in tech. Didn't know whether Nationwide would even want me, but you just need to apply, and then when you get here, if you get here or whatever, or wherever you end up, just say yes to all the opportunities, because so far it's doing me pretty well. So as someone told me the same thing, so I'm passing along that good advice.
Good advice. Thank you. Steph?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely echo what Kieran said on just saying yes. the only reason that I got this job was because I saw it on a random application website and said the words out loud, "I'll never get that. Bugger it, I'll do it anyway." And made the application, and here I am. So sort of taking the dive. I've always been a person who kind of underrated my own abilities. Something I'm learning to try not to do. And certainly getting on this course and being so valued, so heard, and being listened to, has definitely improved that. So I'd say my advice is you are worth more than you think you are, and you should grab whatever you want and just take random opportunities, because 99% of the time the worst anybody can say is no. So go for it.
Very true. Good advice, thank you. And last but not least, Jackie.
Yeah, I completely agree with both Steve and Kieran. I think as long as you're showing that you are really willing to learn, that is the main thing. We sometimes get hold on and think, oh, I don't have this certification or this diploma that I need, or they're asking for this. But actually, when you go into the interview, they just want to know that you're eager to learn. And if you show that they are willing to actually develop you, and I have been through some of Nationwide's interviews as well, just representing diversity network. And it's really just this. They just want you to show, I'm willing to learn. I know that I don't know everything, but can you help me get there? And Nationwide will say yes. So that is my piece of advice for everyone.
Brilliant, thank you.
Can I add one more piece of advice / non-advice in there? Okay, so it's weird advice, little bit of a pinch of salt. No employer reads your CV until you talk about your CV, except Nationwide. Nationwide did. But most other employees will not read your CV. So if you come to the interview with your CV and basically start reading off your achievements, they'll go, "Oh, we didn't know that." And you'll go, "Why?" And they'll go, "Because we didn't read your CV." And we'll go, "I've spent, God knows how many hours on this." So yeah, little advice, just bring your CV and talk about it in an interview in the future.
Very good point. You kind of need to show off about what you've done, really, and don't be afraid to show off yourself. Very good advice. Thank you all. So I think that kind of brings our webinar to a close, really. Just kind of finishing on our technology development program, applications are still open for our Accelerator program, which is what everyone on this call has just been talking about. So, if you want to put in an application, I will post the link to it. Our industrial placement application is also still open. So if you have a sandwich year during your degree, applications are still open for that as well. And you can find contact details on the website if you have any questions. We'd be more than happy to help answer them. Additionally, if you want to post in the Discord channel, myself and my other colleagues are on there as well, and happy to answer any questions that you might have too. So,
sorry, Isabel, there is a question as well in the chat. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't. Sorry, I just see that now.
It's a really good question as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Masha, or Marcia. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
It's about ageism, and I would say absolutely not. I have a lady in my department that she's 70 years old and she works in tech and she's fantastic at it. So it's never too late or early just to try.
Well, we had in our group we had this is terrible. Gull is who we had. So it was almost in the end a little bit of a family event. There were about 5 of them that ended up on the TDP or something.
Yeah,
it was all sorts of them. But Gull is this lovely man. He was into his 50s. I don't want to insult him. I think it was his 50s. But he was absolutely lovely. He started on the TDP with that exact concern that, am I too old to be learning? Am I going to be coming into a group full of 20 somethings who are just going to not even give me the time of day? But we were all just so pleased to have him there. He seems really happy in his new group and stuff. There's such that diversity doesn't just extend towards LGBTQ, racial and gender diversity and things like that, but also very much the age diversity as well, background diversity. There is absolutely discussion about it, Marsha. So, but the discussion is positive and constructive, and if we see any kind of discrimination or anything like that, there's always a positive effort to deal with it. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that at all.
Yeah, just to echo that. Sorry, Marsha, I've just clicked on the tab to see your question, but absolutely not at all. And also within, on the technology development program, there are people from all sorts of different backgrounds who, maybe progressed further in their career in a completely different field and then decided that, they want to make a career change. There's lots of people who've come from all sorts of different backgrounds, who are more mature students, and we're, really encourage that. We're, really open to that. So yeah, just kind of echo what Jackie and Steph just said there as well. So yeah, definitely encourage you to apply, even if you, not a recent graduate. That's, absolutely encouraged.
It's what I obviously don't have a whole lot to add to it, but it's why I applied to Nationwide, is that they are, as far as I know, the only FinTech that actively looks for, their graduate program actively looks for people that aren't necessarily computer science graduates, because the whole company values people on the experience that they can bring from something else, and it's made the TDP a really successful program. And obviously I'm fairly young, so I'm probably on the other side of it, but everywhere I've seen, it's that people are valued for the experience that they can bring above anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very good points. Thank you, everyone. Right, I don't think there's anything else in there. So I will pop in the chat the link to the Technology Development Program. As I said, any questions, I'm more than happy to help. So please just fire them our way on. You can see our email on the website. And yeah, it was great to host this session today. Thank you to all the participants as well for your brilliant advice and insights into your time on the program. And yeah, we'll hope.
Thanks for having us. It's been really nice. And thanks for your question, Marsha. It was always nice to have somebody jump in and with a good query that we can elaborate on.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. We'll leave it there, and yeah, hope to see some of you soon.
Lovely.
Brilliant. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.